Welcome to How to Cook That. I'm Reardon and today we're making a 3D teddy bear cake holding a cute little cupcake. And we also have a giveaway today, so keep watching for details of what you can win and how you can enter. The first thing we need to make is the cake, and for that you'll need cocoa powder, sugar, flour, eggs, milk, vanilla, baking powder, salt, vegetable oil, hot coffee and dark chocolate. Pour the coffee over the chocolate and leave it to melt. Then sift together all the dry ingredients, and I'll put the recipe quantities on the howtocookthat.net website in grams and ounces and cups for you, and I'll link to that below. So you should have the flour, cocoa powder, sugar, baking powder and salt all in there, and this just gets rid of any lumps and it aerates it a bit as well. Beat the eggs until they're fluffy, and again this just adds more air to your cake. Whisk together the coffee and the chocolate mixture so it's smooth, and then pour in the oil and the milk. Then add in your vanilla and fold in the beaten eggs. Now this cake recipe uses a lot less eggs than I usually have in my favourite chocolate cake recipe, but lots of people have been asking, is there one that has a bit less eggs and a bit less chocolate? So this is the one you can use. Fold in your flour mixture, and I'll put the recipe for both of the cakes on my website, and you can bake both and choose which one you like the best. To bake it, you'll need some heat-proof bowls, and I'm using 2 small Pyrex bowls for the head and 2 medium ones for the body. And put 2 cups of mixture into each of the small ones and 3 cups of cake batter into the large ones. Then bake the remaining batter in 2 round cake tins, and if you want him to hold a cupcake, put some in a mini cupcake case too. Then bake those in the oven until they are cooked through. To make the frosting, you need cream and white chocolate. Heat up the cream in the microwave and then pour the hot cream over the chocolate to melt it. Stir it until it's smooth, and then you want to leave that in the fridge for a few hours or on the counter overnight to firm up. Whip up a batch of vanilla buttercream, and again the recipe for this is on the website. It's just butter and icing sugar and a bit of vanilla. Then add in that cooled ganache that's now nice and thick and mix it through. And adding the ganache just gives a really creamy, yummy frosting. Level off the top of your cooled cakes, and for the body part we need to make it a bit taller. So cut a circle of cake out of one of the round cakes, and then make sure that is the same size as the top of your body cake. And then keep the cut off bit. We're going to use that for his legs. We just need to cut it in half right in the middle there so you've got 2 legs. Put the base of the body at the back of the cake board, then add more frosting, then that middle piece of cake that we cut out the circle, and the top. Now at this level you will need to add in support. Put 1 large one right down the centre, then 3 shorter ones around it, and add a small round cardboard disc on top. Then add the bottom of the head, then the top of his head. And the supports just stop the weight of his head squashing down the body so that it keeps its shape. Use scissors to trim off that support to the right level. Flatten out the front of his head towards the nose a bit, and then do the same on each side where his shoulders are, and this is just going to allow room for his arms to attach so they're not sticking out too far from the side. Then flatten out the front of his chest just a little bit there. This just accentuates his big sort of chubby tummy in the middle. Add the legs to the base and trim off that skinny bit that's wrapping around the back. Flatten off the front and then curve it in where it joins the body, and take off the extra curve that's sticking out into the middle there, and then repeat that on the other leg so that you've got 2 little legs. If you're not confident in cutting, I'll put a template on the howtocookthat.net website to help you with the sizes, and you can just cut around that instead. For his feet, take the other round cake and cut off those 2 sides so you're left with a strip in the middle. Cut that middle strip in half, and then round off the corners off each one so you end up with like an oval foot shape. And you want to add that to the cake, and you can trim the base to make it sit on the angle that you want it to. Now, if you're a regular How to Cook That watcher, then you'll know I like to melt some of the icing and pour it over the top to give the crumb coat. For 3D carved fresh cakes that are really crumbly, this is the easiest way to give them a coat all over. And see how it's catching all of those crumbs, so our next coat of icing is nice and clean. Then once it's covered, place it in the fridge to go firm. And we'll do our arms. Now for that, I'm making them out of cake, but I suggest you actually make them out of Rice Krispie, like I did when I did the Hulk fist on the Avengers cake. Just make a sausage shape and add it to the side of the body, then add a couple of cake pop sticks in for support. Trim the arms to make room for where that little cupcake's going to go, and then cover them in frosting too. Trim 2 round biscuits so they're pointy on one side, and then poke them into the head for his ears. Now roll out some grey fondant so we can make his patches. Just cut a strip and then cut some squares. We probably only need about 2 or 3. Then cut out a circle for the bottom of his feet. Just trim off the sides and then round out the corners to make it more of a tall oval shape. Cut 2 smaller circles for the ears and then trim them to make them flat at the base. And I'll put all these pieces on the template too, so you know the sizes for all of them. Add them onto his feet, his head, his cheek, and his ears. Add the colour that you want the bear to be into the frosting. Now my bear's going to be grey, so I'm just adding in a little bit of black. Now you can add this colour before you apply the crumb coat, and it's probably a good idea. I've just kept it plain so it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. Spread some of that grey frosting in the centre of his head and smooth it out. And then do the same on the top of his chest there. And add a tiny snake of black fondant for the seam. And then add some little stitches across the top so it looks like he's been repaired. Then place the rest of the frosting into a piping bag fitted with a grass tip and pipe on the fur. Just pipe and pull outwards. Just be still sort of pushing on the piping bag as you pull so that you get some longer fur there. Now teddy fur tends to be quite messy, so you can pull in all different directions. Don't do it neat or going the one way. Lots of people ask me, how many times do you make a cake before you film it so that you get it right? Well, the answer to that is I only make cakes once. You request it and I make it for you and I film it as I go. So you're watching me make this cake and all the cakes I make for the very first time ever. To make his nose, roll a ball of light grey and flatten it out, and then use your hands to shape it into more of a rounded triangle sort of shape. Then do the same with a little bit of pale blue and add that to the top. Use a knife to make a line down from the bottom of the blue nose there right down to the base. Now to support this, you're going to need to add 2 pieces of spaghetti pointing upwards, or you could use cake pop sticks here if you prefer, and then just add the nose into place. He looks so much cuter with his nose. Then roll 2 tiny balls of black and add them into place for his eyes, and then add a tiny dot of white onto each one. On the foot, use a skewer to poke a hole and then push in a tiny snake of black, lots of tiny things on this bear, and then push the other end into the fur and repeat that stitching all the way around. Now if you want him to hold something, it will also need support, so add some spaghetti here or some cake pop sticks and then carefully place the item on top. Now he's pretty cute just like that, but if you want you can also add a ribbon around his neck, and you could make this out of fondant or just use a real one like I did. And now for the competition. World Kitchen is giving away 5 mega packs with heaps of the gear that I used to make this cake, including the Pyrex bowls that I baked the teddy bear in, knives for carving, jugs for measuring. I'll put a link below to where you can enter that. And yes, you can enter from anywhere in the world. Subscribe to How to Cook That for more cakes, chocolates and desserts. Click here for the recipe, here for my YouTube channel, and here for last week's rose apple pie video. A special shout out to Nuno Ribeiro, who has been asking for a 3D teddy bear cake for quite some time. I have read all of your requests, and to everyone else who has also requested it and moved it up the list. Make it a great week, and I'll see you on Friday.